Hi Tea Society, welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we're checking out Dreamcatcher's Wonderland Carol version. I'm so excited because Wonderland is not only a fantastic song, one of my favorite songs, but it's from one of my favorite albums. I feel like I listen to Alone in the City pretty much every day, which some may see as a problem. I see as commitment. But definitely one of my favorite B-sides that they've done. It just has such a interesting aesthetic and vibe to it that I'm really interested in hearing what the arrangement is going to be in more of a carol way, because unlike Jazz Bar, which obviously has more of a jazzy feel to it, I feel like it was a much easier transition into something that was going to be more in traditional Christmassy songs. But with Wonderland, it has this dark tone to it that I'm fascinated at what we're going to do with creating a carol version out of that. I also noticed in my reaction to Jazz Bar, because I just had this picture that my eyes were like tracking to be looking at whoever's part it was, just insomnia things. Okay. The like static like an old record.
어딘가에서 들려오는 소리 난 귀를 기울여 아름다웠어 아름다웠어 난 사르르 녹아 I'm falling.
Okay, I love the bells being used. Like, that definitely has a lighter sound to it. It's like the bass is pulled out of it. It might just be like my headphones not fully picking up that. But the actual, like, I think it's a string instrument of some kind, but I don't know which one it is. If it's a synth, or if it's like MIDI of a string, or if it's, I don't know, like a harp or something, but it has this very interesting vibe to it. I feel like it's a synth. Ooh, they were getting more of the bass line. With those strings coming in too. Ooh, that like key in the back almost. Oh, okay. I love the little chime there at the end too, but so many interesting instruments that they're bringing into this. I felt the same way with Jazz Bar, where there were just a lot of interesting sounds being brought in that at least I haven't heard all together in a Dreamcatcher song. There are definitely moments where they take interesting instruments or samples and use those as part of the mixing, but usually not this bright of a tone. And I like that the overall song still has a bit of a darker lean to it, but the overall vibe is lighter. Does that make sense? Like, there's still this ominous undertone in almost a, and I may be completely wrong with this, but ballet kind of feeling. It has this orchestral feeling that it definitely has a brighter sound than the more like traditional rock backing. This Wonderland definitely isn't their most rock sound, but instead of having that kind of darker, edgier aesthetic to the overall song, it has more of that kind of drama instead. Does that make sense? Maybe it's just giving me Nutcracker vibes, which is totally fine with me. I love that ballet, but it just has a bit of that leaning to it, which is really cool. I love that they have to keep the distortion on the vocals for that part. I wasn't really sure if they're going to keep that. Again, it depends with remixes and like reimaginings of songs. Sometimes they're just using whatever the master vocal tracks were. So I'm assuming that they didn't come in and re-record for this, unlike with Jazz Bar, where I'm like, because Hanlag is there, they may have had to do some kind of recording to rejig it a little bit. But with this one, I'm assuming they just took the vocals. It sounds like they just took the vocal tracks and redid the production on them. But to have that distortion with this production is interesting. Honestly, I would have preferred if they could have done, and again, it depends on the limitations of what they can do, right? It's not just a matter of time, but also in terms of like how much they're allowed to change those masters or have access to them, right? I don't know the logistics side of their contracts and stuff like that, but I would have liked something that was more of a like classical radio filter on it instead, but I get that it has to stick with the distortion on it. But I also love that in the chorus there, where in the original, we had this huge swell of production stuff. The production really hits in the second part of the chorus. I love that in this, it pulled back a bit, an inversion of that, which I think just adds to this slightly ominous feeling to the overall song. It's cheerful, but there's this undercurrent to it.
머리가 어지러운 걸 새롭게 바뀌어 my heart 버리고 집어봐 the real 하늘색 드레스 노란빛 머리 하얀색 토끼와 고양이
I love that they kept the meow. I love the like keyboard. Bringing the beat pad in. Because there's some intense bass on this song. There we go. Love that build up though. Ooh, with the strings layered. Ooh, that was interesting because it was almost like they were keeping the original rhythm section of the original song and then layering in these strings on top of it. Again, a much more swelling of sound, but I love that buildup of holding back for the beginning of the song and then having this build up into some more of that production. This definitely has more of a, I guess I can't really say that because my Christmas Sweet Love also came at me with the production, because I was going to say that this one feels more in a Dreamcatcher vibe than some of the other Christmas songs in this EP, but I guess it's not entirely true. It's more in the Dreamcatcher vein, I feel, than the jazz bar version was. But I also feel like Wonderland doesn't deviate quite as much sonically from Dreamcatcher's kind of overall sound as Jazz Bar does. Jazz Bar is far more leaning into jazz music, whereas Wonderland is more of a stripped back version of their overall kind of sound. But I love that pickup in the pace with those choppy strings on top. The bell all the way through this though. Love that synth. Ooh, and then the strings with that hush 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 melody. I don't know if that synth is a guitar, but the like buzz sample. Ooh, with the little chime. Little magic chime at the end. Very Christmassy. Dang, that was like a really interesting reworking of this, using some of the elements but building up into it. It was really stripped back and different in the production side for the first verse and chorus, deviating obviously melodically very similar, but reworking all of that and then incorporating the elements, some of the elements from the original song, but layering over all of these other things that are more traditionally found in orchestral music and traditional pop music, right? Strings, and even having the synths in there, which obviously isn't traditional pop, but having more of a almost harp feeling to it. And again, I don't know how much of that is synth or MIDI or having an electrical harp, which is the thing. Don't ask me why I know that. Like how much of this filtered through to get that sound, which I'm always just obsessed with the production on this team, that I would love to have a chance to be in the studio and just have them walk me through what they're doing if I could. If that's like an option, I'll put it out there and maybe I can reference this at some future point and be like, I did it. I would love to have that opportunity because I think that would be so much fun to just really go through in detail how they put some of this together, because I think it's so fun. And I feel like this is definitely more of a upbeat, like the other songs are upbeat too, and they have a very happy vibe, but this one definitely has a bit more of a kick to it in the percussion rhythm side of it. So I'm excited to add it to my list, to my playlist of holiday songs, which is always a lot of fun. I love that. I love this whole project, right? Anything that is going to give me more Christmassy stuff in my life, love it. And if you can pair it with one of my favorite groups, even better. So I'm super excited to get all three of these songs, all three of these versions, getting to add them to my playlist and get to listen to them a bunch and have them pop up again this time next year will be so much fun. But I also love getting to hear these songs through a different lens. I always love remixes or reimagines that are done by the actual main team. Take it or leave it with other remixes, because they do feel a little bit like you've just copied and pasted the vocals over other tracks that don't necessarily mesh super well together, but it can depend on who's working on it, because a lot of time that's what it is. They just have to work around how the vocals were delivered originally, whereas when it's more of a reimagined by the original team, they can get a little bit more creative with pulling apart different layers of the original tracks and incorporating some of the original production stuff in, even though maybe they don't have time to do something different with the vocals, but they can bring in the rhythm section from the original song and use that and reimagine that whole song like around some of these familiar key parts of it. And I always find that fascinating, especially for this production team. They worked with the original song coming into this one and saying, how do we do this with a very different vibe but keep enough of the original that it is recognizable between the two of them? And I find it fascinating. And again, just like I said with Jazz Bar, I'm gonna have to listen to these back to back to really pull apart all the different comparisons and differences and really contrast the two versions and get all of those details, because the production team is so good for Dreamcatcher. I love them so much. I adore them in a way that I can't fully describe, but loved it. I love getting a whole set of Christmassy songs from Dreamcatcher and getting to see them releasing stuff specifically around Christmas. I know that they did a lot of Halloween stuff before some stuff went down on Halloween, but with Christmas, I feel like there wasn't quite as much. I was looking into stuff that I could do for the Christmas season that was Dreamcatcher, and I feel like I did the majority of it. So excited that we're getting a full release that is around Christmas themed things. But I hope you enjoyed listening to that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you miss next time I post a Dreamcatcher reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.